Welcome back. You're with the Breakfast Club, and it's time to take you through a person of interest. If there's one person who has consistently reshaped Indian entertainment across formats, genres, and even platforms, it's our guest today. As the managing director of Applause Entertainment, Sameer Nair has built a studio known for backing stories and are sharp. They are ambitious. They are culturally relevant as well.
So the new season of Criminal Justice, right with Pankaj Tripathi at the helm, has returned. And it is already one of the most quietly compelling in the streaming space. But it is just one more example of what this organization is capable of. Behind the show, behind many others, is a mind that understands both storytelling and scale. And over the last few decades, he's become almost synonymous with the evolution of this industry. A defining force in how and in what India chooses to watch. Please welcome onto the show, Mr. Nair. Good morning. Let's talk first a little bit about Criminal Justice. Can you tell us a little bit about over the last few years, because it stood out for its storytelling, but it handles the Indian legal and the prison system without any sensationalism, and it's really been loved for that. Tell us a little bit about what the conversations behind the scenes look like, about tone, about realism, about responsibility, because it's a tricky balance. How do you manage it?
Well, see, Criminal Justice was originally, it's a British show, it's a BBC show. It was created by Peter Moffat, and Criminal Justice was supposed to be the criminal justice system. It's how the system works and what happens. So this first season was about this, this sort of boy who gets caught in a crime and then is put into jail, and then how life plays out from there for him in jail, for the family outside as they, navigate their way through the legal system. And eventually, that he is sort of acquitted. So that was the story. They'd done it in the UK, and then it was also made in the US as The Night Of. So we'd seen the thing, and it was, it's that what you call premium drama. So therefore, not sensational, not silly, not very, very breathless screaming, shouting, and none of all that. So I mean, taking off from there is where we started, and we sort of fixed a few things in the first season of it. So we made the character a middle of the road, regular Hindu boy. We built the whole story around that, and we stayed true to the original format, obviously adding lots of little bits and pieces of our own from our own criminal justice system, which is a little distinctive. Like typically Western shows tend to show prison in a particular way. Obviously our prisons are not like that. So we sort of stayed true to all of those things. We built prison sets, we created characters in those prisons, we built out all the other things. The one great unique thing that came out of season 1 for us was the discovery of Pankaj Tripathi. So the original also had a lawyer character who was a bit, morose and eccentric, and he had an eczema condition, so he kept scratching his way through the first season. So that was a unique trait that they had anyway introduced in the original.
Talking about Pankaj Tripathi, there is enough to be spoken about the man. His portrayal of the last few seasons had people absolutely, glued to their television screens. Do you know when you're watching rehearsals itself or just some reruns, the first edits that come out, could you tell at that point that this was going to be magic on screen?
Honestly, in the case of Criminal Justice in season 1, because we had seen the original and we knew what we were writing and making, I think from the get-go, when we saw the first dailies and the first rough cuts, we knew that Pankaj had done something special with the character. When the music was scored and added on to his little mischief, it became sort of, funnier, and it was totally different from what the original was. The original was not that kind of, character at all. And we liked it, and whether we could have foretold at that time that it would go on to become such big success, that would be presumptuous. But we definitely knew that we were on to something, which is why when season 1 got over and we had to do season 2, we took the character forward. We changed the format and we took it forward. And we always credit Peter Moffat for creating the original, but we are really actually now 3 seasons ahead of what they had done. So it's wonderful, and I think that happens. Oftentimes the magic comes up, in performance, in direction, in the manner in which different elements come together. So you obviously write it, and you can read it and you can imagine it, and then you got to go out there and shoot it and make it and then put it all together and then get to a platform. They got to like it, then you give it to the audience, and then they love it, and then the magic happens.
So, if we just talk a little bit more now about you and what your company's created, what you have built over the last few years, take us to decades ago. Take us right to, when you were adapting a show like KBC for Indian audiences for the first time. Walk us through that process.
Quizzing was very big in India. It had, it's part of our culture to be part of the quizzing sort of world. This show had done very well, ask questions, give money, those kind of things. So really the challenge for us was not so much about how to adapt it for India, but as much as making it acceptable to an Indian audience. So that's what we went for, honestly. I mean, I think the show in its original pristine form was quite perfect, and we tried to stay as true to the format as possible with regard to the graphics, the look, the set, the sound effects, that whole dramatic music, all of that stuff. And we tried to sort of recreate it as sort of, as honestly, with as much integrity as possible. And I suppose the big change that we were doing in this was, of course, the selection of the host, Mr. Bachchan, because nowhere else in the world before that had a, like a bona fide movie superstar become the host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. They'd usually been always, breakfast show hosts, and that kind of people. So that was a first. And then as we started the show and as we went, obviously the questions and answers were adapted to our milieu, our context, our language and culture. The show was going to be in Hindi and English, so that was pretty straightforward. But I think we also discovered along the way, as we did the show, and it's gone on now for 25 years. So I mean, we did the first 3 seasons, and then Sony did, I think, the next 16 seasons. So I mean, it's been done Mr. Bachchan through and through. So I think along the way we also discovered little other nuances to it, like the famed Bachchan pause and speak dramatically, look into camera, hold the moment, booming laugh, those kind of things were all sort of unique characteristics that came up. And just, Indian gyan, culture, all the politeness, the dignity that Mr. Bachchan brings to a format of this kind. I think all of that became very, very Indian and unique and our own.
That's true. In fact, there was a season with Shah Rukh Khan as well, and that sort of started a lot of celebrities coming in on a lot of these reality shows with Salman Khan and the rest of them jumping in as well. But you're right, the grace and the fact that it's had such a long run and still running is just absolutely brilliant. But talking about the engagement there, how have you seen audiences change from 2000s to now? When you were building shows like Kasauti and the typical Saas Bahu drama that was so much just the flavor of the season.
Well, I think in the 90s we were coming off a single TV universe. There was only Doordarshan till the end 80s. So, that was the world we lived in. Families had one TV set and one TV channel. The 90s brought liberalization. The 90s brought, among other things, satellite television to India. It also opened up the skies as it did for so many other sectors. So we had a lot of variety basically, and that variety created a new audience base. So as always with any kind of audience group, there are always the older audience segments who are more traditional and are used to a certain way of life, and the younglings who come along and who want to change the world. So I don't think the 90s and 2000s were much different from any other generation in that sense. The big difference was that satellite television happened, so there was a lot more choice. There were all kinds of channels, not just a single general entertainment channel. So there was music, indie pop happened, we got sports, we started seeing news channels, all of those things. And in the mix of all that, I also suppose, it was India, going through this phase of opening up, beckoning a new century. The 21st century was supposed, just about to happen. That's when KBC and Kyunki came along actually. So I think it was like, there was a lot of, sort of general energy in the air. We'd been through some 7-8 years of economic growth. We were looking ahead to the new century, and into that arrived, the newfound Star Plus which we had built at that time.
that gave birth after that to just so many mammoth shows. But can we talk now about the shows that Applause has been creating over the last few years? So the very, very cool thing I think that you guys have been putting out again and again is turning historical events into films, into TV shows. Walk us through what that process is like. How true are you to a script, for example? What's that balance of factual accuracy to a little bit of masala? Just tell us.
Doing Scam, for example, Scam was an idea that I had wanted to do for a long time, so we had been talking about it, but you know, in the context, in the way that TV existed, Indian TV existed through the 2000s and 2010s, it was not really designed for that kind of programming. Then luckily streaming came along. So when streaming came along, it allowed us to tell a story in that format, 10 episodes, 40, 50-minute episodes, and in a richer, more deeper way of storytelling. So that was wonderful. A Scam is something we wanted to do. We bought the rights to the book. We researched it heavily. But always when you're telling a story, and that too of a particular contemporary period, there's this matter of what is the fact and then how you tell it. So that's where storytelling comes in. So you've got to obviously keep a very eagle eye on factual accuracy. But there's also this thing about entertainment and storytelling and emotion. So you're literally breathing life into these people, into these characters that you've read about. And a lot of the individual daily life, daily behavior, things that may have happened in a meeting, how they refer to each other in a family situation, what kind of people they were, is really things that we imagine in that sense. You do a lot of research, a lot of people talk about a lot of things, but finally it's the actor, the director, the writer, and us as creators who sort of put this whole thing together.
All right, Mr. Nair, that's all the time we have. But thank you so much for sharing the insights of what goes into making some really cool drama back in the 90s and even one that is capturing audiences now. Thank you so much for your time.